Hi, this is Jen from stampwithjen.com, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to make this thank you card using this adorable strawberry stamp set. It is from the Witty-Cisms stamp set, which is in the Stampin' Up! January to June 2020 mini catalog, and we're going to use this particular piece here, the one that says thank you very much. To start with, I'm going to cut out a couple things using these layering squares dies. What I love about these is you get the square and also the scallop mat, both from the same set. You can find those in layering squares dies in the Stampin' Up! Annual catalog, this one. For ink I need two, the Memento Black and Lovely Lipstick. I'm also going to use the Wink of Stella glitter brush and some blends, markers, Lovely Lipstick, both the light and the dark, and Granny Apple Green, both the light and the dark, and possibly color lift. For paper, I've already cut out my squares from the dies. I'm also using this Lily Impressions Designer Series paper, which is from the Celebration catalog, and you can get it for free with a $60 order during the celebration. A piece of Lovely Lipstick, just a scrap of white, and then my card base is also white. And then you're going to need some assorted tools to complete this card. Dimensionals, scissors. I have both a pair I use just for ribbon and a pair for cutting, bone folder, some adhesive of some sort, glue dots, that kind of thing. I'm going to start here by inking up the stamp, the thank you very much with the image, onto my piece of scrap. Then I'm going to ink it again onto the little wee square that I've already die cut. Both of those were with black ink, so I'm going to clean the black ink off now. And I don't want you to be alarmed, but this is what I do with my stamps sometimes. I actually cut them so that I can use them in various ways. And it doesn't hurt the stamp. It goes back together again very easily. As you saw, I was stamping with it put back together. So I don't lose the pieces, I'm going to stick them back into the stamp case. But I wanted the ability to use the word separate from the actual berry image. So now I'm going to use my Lovely Lipstick, and I'm going to use this matte layer of Lovely Lipstick to do tone on tone stamping, and I'm just going to fill in the whole background here. When you're doing background stamps, you want to make sure you're turning your stamp around so you get different positions of the image. Also make sure you're going off the edge of the paper so it kind of looks like it's cut from a random larger piece of paper. It's almost like you're making your own designer series paper. And you can test to see if you've got enough images by laying your mat on there, and I thought it looked good. So the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to color the image on the scrap paper, and I'm going to start with my Lovely Lipstick, the light color, and I like to start coloring by doing kind of an outline image of everything I'm going to color. I call it like a kindergarten outline, and that just helps me to stay in the lines when I'm coloring. So I'm going to color this whole thing in, and I find it easier to just turn the paper around so I can really see what I'm doing. And I'm going to do really small little circles here and just color in the whole image with the light. Now these images are nice because they have shading on them, which really tells you where you should have darker images, darker color. So I'm going to just add in the dark Lovely Lipstick here in those areas, and I'm going to come back in with the bullet tip this time on my Lovely Lipstick and use small circles to just blend those two colors together, so it gives that some nice natural shading. And I actually add here a little bit of shading under the leaves, just thinking that that might be naturally where you'd have a tiny bit of shading on the strawberry. It's a very little bit on this berry, but just a little bit of shading makes the image look really nice. Now if you make a boo-boo like I did here, you can take your color lifter and you can just use it and go over the paper and over the boo-boo, and it basically sort of pushes that ink back into the paper, and it erases it really. Okay, so I'm going to go in again with the dark Lovely Lipstick and the bullet tip, and I'm going to just color in all the little seeds, sort of darker color. The bullet tip was the perfect size for that. And then I take my Wink of Stella glitter brush, because you could never have enough glitter. But I always thought strawberries kind of look a little bit glittery, and so I'm adding some glitter to those little seeds. It's very subtle, but it's just an extra little element to the card. So I'm going to follow the exact same way to color on the stem as I did on the berry. So I'm starting with the light, and then I'm taking note of the shading that is done already on the image, and I'm coloring that in with the dark. And then I'm going back in with the bullet tip on the lighter and just blending those out a little bit. So we have got a lovely colored image. Where I got the colors for this card, I actually took them from the Lily Impressions Designer Series paper, and it showed me on the back of that paper that it was a granny apple green color, so that's why I picked that. Now I'm on my square piece now, and I'm just coloring the very outlines of this image because I'm going to cut out the other one, pop it up. But just because you might still be able to see just on the edges, I wanted to just have those colored in a little bit. So I'm just using my paper snip scissors now to trim out this image, and it's really easy to do. You don't always need to have a die to cut things out. I just tend to turn the paper around as I'm going. So you see that's going to go right on top there. We're going to pop it up with some dimensionals, but before I make it bumpy and too hard to stick down, I'm going to stick down this part first onto the little square. So just how cute that little scallop mat is. And then this one I'll use some dimensionals, my little teeny tiny ones. The mini dimensionals are perfect for this because I can get right up into that stem. And it would have been fine to not have this popped up on the card, but it just adds another little element, popping something up. I'm going to add that on. And then you hopefully can see when you go to the edge that you can see there's a little bit of color there, so it just is an extra little step. So I've scored the paper, the card-based paper, in half, and I'm just giving it a good crease with the bone folder. I'm going to add my layer, and you can notice here that the layer is just a little bit different size than I normally do. This is just in a little bit, just to have more white showing. And if you're one of my VIP members, you're going to get the complete supply list this week in our private group. If you want to find out more about being a VIP, just go to my rewards section on my website and you can find out more about that. So I'm just taking a little bit of this Whisper white ribbon that is also in the mini catalog, and it's a seam binding ribbon, so it's really thin, easy to manipulate. It's actually fun. You can color it too if you want to with your blends markers. So I'm just putting a little bit on this piece of paper, and I'm going to put snail all over here to make sure it's really stuck down well, and I'm going to stick it onto my base here, making sure it's straight. Once I have the tape on there, I give it a really good rub to make sure it's sealed. I'm going to add more dimensionals because you can never pop things up enough onto the back of the little strawberry. And that's going to fit right there. I love that lily paper. It really brings out some brightness to this card. And then I take another little piece of this seam binding ribbon and I'm going to tie a bow. So I just wrap it around my fingers and I just tie sort of a messy bow to start, and then I kind of manipulate it with my fingers to get it smaller and tighter and more even looking. So it just takes a little bit of fiddling. Some people will tie a bow around the top of the lid or something to try and get it nice and even if you have trouble manipulating with your fingers. And then I use my ribbon scissors to trim that ribbon off at an angle. And I'm going to use some mini glue dots to stick that on. And you can just take the bow and stick it right onto the mini glue dot. You could even use one or two if you want to make sure it's going to stick well. And stick it right on there. Now, if you find your bow is not going the way you want, what you can do is take a glue dot and you can use it to help position your bow. So I'm just tucking it up underneath the seam there on both sides and then just making the ribbon go the way I want it to go. So how cute is that? It's a perfect little thank you card for almost anyone. And here's my original. I used a different type of designer series paper, so I changed the color on that one, but they're both lovely. I actually like the brighter green, the granny apple green on this card instead. I've got some other ideas using this Witty-Cisms stamp set on my website, and check back to www.stampwithjen.com often for other tips, tricks, and ideas. Thanks for watching.